welcome back to another episode of They Don't Want It, and it's a grand final preview. I've got a slightly different guest than our man Rennie. He's been indisposed. 18th man's come in, Lukey Keary.
Thanks for having me.
How are you, buddy?
Good, mate. Good. A bit dusty today, but
yeah. What have you been up to?
Not much. Just a few exit reviews, a few exit medicals before I go over. So
any video sessions that make you do a video?
No video sessions. We had a get together, little squad get together, and said our goodbyes. Presentation last night. So
how was that?
A bit sad to see everyone leave. Obviously, we got a big crew of us leaving this year, so a bit sad, but they're in good hands there at the Roosters.
It's definitely going to be a changing of the guard.
Yeah, it is. I was sitting with Teddy last night and was saying it's going to be a lot different. Obviously, you lose Jared. Myself's been there for a while. Joey Manu, even Suwali and Tills. Big Napski was there last night in good form. So
he would have been. He's always in good form.
He's wild. But the boys will still be around the club. Obviously, hopefully the two Joeys make their way back at some point. But I think Jared will come back after a year and be involved some capacity. So
after a year?
I think he's only a year overseas and he's back in Oz.
Do you reckon he could make it just a last minute late come
never
back?
Know with him, mate. Honestly, don't rule it out. Don't rule it out.
Oh, all right. Well, let's just first we'll touch on some of your stuff. I think after all, let's just go straight into a preview of this grand final because it was 50-50 in the betting. The money has come from Melbourne. You obviously played both teams recently. Who do you want to go through first?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Obviously, we'll go through Melbourne. Played them last week, but it is interesting because obviously the last 5 years, right, Penrith have been the most consistent team, but then you just look at this year and Melbourne have been the best team by I feel like they've been the best team by a margin. Yeah. They won the minor premiership by 6 points. They were resting players. They blew the Cronulla out. They blew us out last week. Like, kind of all roads have led to them being the best team. But then you look on the other side, the team that's made 5 grand finals in a row, and they've kind of been, like, to their own admission, I reckon they'd say they've been patchy through the year, different players in different form, injuries. They had a heap of boys play Origin. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they all become healthy at the start of the finals and they're going to be so hard to beat. It's going to be I remember previewing last year going, there's two different styles, right? This athletic, enthusiastic Brisbane team and this grinding, tough Penrith team. And I was like, wow, this is going to be fun. You look at these two teams and you go, they're very similar footy teams. They've got very similar strengths. It's going to be a really tough game.
What's the subtle differences, say, from Melbourne to Penrith, like in your eyes?
Well, you look at even a subtle one, like you look at the forward packs, right? Like Melbourne are just this, call them like cut-offs from other teams, but you got Katoa got drafted from the Warriors. Blore couldn't make the Tigers team. Kings in there in the front, right? There's just these blokes just unassuming, and on the field they are a proper pack. Like you seen them last week. We've got a fair pack ourselves. They matched it, and if not, beat us in the middle of the park, and it lays that platform. Best spine in the comp, I believe. Obviously, Penrith, are, they're probably 1 and 2 there, but the form that like Hughes is in career best form, Harry's in career best form, Paps has come back, Munster's healthy now.
One thing I love about the four, therefore, is that they run first, pass second. Yeah. What's that like to defend against? Like, what's the difference with that?
It's tough. It's tough. You've seen last week, like you're previewing them and you're previewing these edge shots and things like. They got real good back rows. That Katoa and Blore, good back rows. So you can't just solely focus on Hughes and Munster, but they're going to run the ball 10 plus times a game, which other halves don't do. Yeah. Nath will run it a fair bit. Luai run it a fair bit. But no one's running it like
that
Hughes and
Munster.
And to be honest, they both started their careers as fullbacks too. So they're dynamic ball runners. They're not these little halves that need a step and jink around. Like they're dynamic,
like you,
big. They're big halves. Like they're just good. They're very solid, very hard to defend. It's very very hard to defend.
Yeah, and then you've got Pappy who can just accelerate and get outside C defender like that.
Yeah, like he's playing that middle of the park, and Harry's another threat. Like when you're previewing Melbourne, you go on any quick play of the balls. Like we need to shut the whole field down to stop Harry, right? But then you got these two halves out wide and Paps kind of roaming around. So, mate, Craig's done such a good job there to kind of reconfigure that team. Even 12 months ago, they walked into that prelim against Penn. They just beat us in the elimination final, and they walk into that prelim and they weren't even in the game. Like they weren't even there or thereabouts last year. Within 12 months, same team, they're at the top tippy top of their game, and they've tweaked little things like that where their pack just does their job, and their spine is just so dynamic.
He's got to be, and we don't want to offend Robbo because we're both obviously huge fans, but fuck, he's a good coach, isn't he? As you said, like he seems to be, I think with Melbourne, they've got like, seem to be no frills players sometimes, and he just takes them to a whole new level.
Yeah, he's got something. Like obviously, any fan of the game seen over the last 20 years, like he developed Cooper, Cam Smith, Billy, like they weren't given to him done. Like they were all young kids that came through, and then Hughes, Munster, Paps, Harry, they're all young kids that come through. He's developed all these guys. They haven't really bought any big names. He's had to evolve with the times. But there's not many coaches. You look across the league, they all have an expiry date at some point. There's not many that don't. Like even Wayne had to leave Brisbane, and he's had to leave a few different clubs. Craig's probably the only one that's survived for so long at such a consistent level. I think off the top of my head, they've only missed the finals at one time when the points got taken.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and I reckon once he finishes, we'll look back and go, it's probably one of the best coaches to ever coach our game.
I think I totally agree with that. But it's funny, so we just spoke about that in such a breath, and I know he's been doing it for longer, but I reckon one bloke that almost doesn't get mentioned enough is Ivan. 5 premierships in a row, going for five grand finals in a row, going for his 4th.
Yeah, any other coach, and they're probably saying he's the best coach in the world. And it's funny because Ivan was there and then obviously got sacked.
Yeah.
Gus got rid of him, goes to the Tigers, leaves the Tigers to come back. And he's the same, mate. Like, they haven't had the same squad. I was reading something today. There's like 11 players that are missing from that first
squad,
grand final. Like, he's had to do the same thing. They've had to evolve. They've kept their key players. They're about to lose Jerome at the end of this year, which it'll be tough to fill in. But how he's got them back up year after year, injuries, origin, different players leaving, coming in. They had to replace Uppy. They had some real key players missing. It is honestly, to make 1 is so hard. To make 5 is
mind-boggling.
It's very hard to think about.
Yeah. How do you think the game starts? Which team are you expecting to come out the blocks?
I think Penrith know, like they've got this thing, like they've played in these big games, and you've seen it against us that week 1.
Yeah.
They know they can blow a team off the park in 20 to 30 minutes. They got all those boys that have played Origin who can flick that switch, and they did it against us.
Yeah.
Flick that switch. They're a really simple team out of yardage. You'll just see they're one out. A lot of their outside backs will carry. They don't make errors out of yardage. Like, you watch the big games, they do not make errors out of yardage. Nath kicks them into really good spots. But they've got this thing. You can tell with their pack, 2 front rowers, Liam Martin, like they go, let's turn the heat up here for 20, 25 minutes. The score can be 12, 14, 18-0 within the blink of an eye. And you've seen Melbourne, obviously Nelson got the sin bin. They come out probably a touch off the mark.
Yeah.
And it was credit to them that they just turned that game back around, because I felt like we had the momentum there for that first 10 minutes. But, yeah, if you're going to say who's going to come out, Penrith are going to come out. They did it to Parramatta a couple of years ago, and the game was over within.
The game was
over within 20 minutes.
Well, they've probably spent a lot of the year kind of just staying in games. But then it's like they hit finals and they switch it.
Yeah, we knew it was coming too. There, like I think they had a really poor game the week before against Gold Coast. They were just kind of going through the motions, and then that first 20, 25 minutes was as intense as a lot of us have felt.
How hard is it to stop the bleeding when that happens?
It is. When you got a quality team like that, like when you're getting beaten physically, you need things to go wrong for them. Like you need errors, penalties, and you've seen it with us last week. I felt like we were slowly getting on top of Melbourne, and then all of a sudden, I think we had a couple yardage penalties in error and good ball, and all of a sudden, they're a team that just goes, they can turn it on you with their attack. And that's probably the 2 different styles. You'll see Penrith will grind, right? And they've been in these grinds all year, and Melbourne can hurt you within 1 or 2 sets. Like Harry gets on a roll, Jerome, Cam, Paps, they can go whack. Whereas Penrith, you'll probably see them grind a lot more. They'll turn the ball under a lot. They'll try to tire out the middle forwards. Nathan and Jerome will be really patient. They'll wait. They'll pick a few moments. You've seen in the last 4 years that they take big moments in those games, whereas you look at that Melbourne team and they're they're explosive. They could come from anywhere. Could come from inside their own half. You've seen last week. Take that 20-metre tap and run at the length. Like they can just
turn it on from anywhere.
It was a bit similar to Brisbane. Like Walsh hurt him a few times last year from deep field. And I think Melbourne are going to have to come up with one or two of those big explosive plays at some point.
Do you think if you're Melbourne, you've got a chance to run, you've got to offload the pill more, you've got to really take those chances?
I don't think so. I think you've got to take your chances, but I don't think they'll risk it. I don't think they need to risk it. They'll know their best footy is capable of beating anyone, and they've done it twice to Penrith this year. Both times Nathan played. And knowing how Craig coaches, it'll be so simple. Run hard, tackle hard, and trust yourself, because they've built a game model and a game style that obviously can match it with everyone.
Yeah.
And there'll be no reason for them to sit there this week and go, I think we need to turn the risk up just a little bit here to beat Penrith. Like, that won't be in their thinking at all.
Do you reckon Wayne might let out just a few fucks throughout the game and all?
Maybe.
No way, Craig, Bellamy, big Bellamy. I could just see Bellamy. Oh, mate, I can't. They should just have a camera on him the whole game. Full belly
that Brisbane one where they're up by 50 and I think Meany or something dropped it over the line. He lost his.
Just lose like 100%. Yeah. He just loses it. The amount of pressure the poor bloke must be under. I reckon he's
Imagine the ones that aren't winning.
Let's go the halves. You're obviously being a half. You've been in sevens predominantly at 6. How do you think Nathan looks at this game?
You've seen him come in and he's just pulling strings for him. And you can see how much they trust him and love him, and they know exactly what to do. Like, those forwards are probably sitting there today going, if I can just do my job, he's going to get us over the line. And that's like a very powerful thing. We had it with Coops in 18-19. You knew if you could just do your job and do it really well, that guys like him were going to get you home, and you really trust those halfbacks. Yeah. And it's a super powerful thing. And I think the big thing with Melbourne is probably the shift they've had in that 12 months. I reckon those players trust Jerome more than anyone else in that team.
What's changed in his game, you think, this year?
I think he's got a little bit more comfortable as a 7. He's kicked a lot more. Obviously, Cam was out. I reckon they're about 50-50 kicking. He's had the groin, and Jerome's kind of had to step up into that really chief playmaker role, but he's probably turned the dial up a little bit more on his running game, which usually you see those 7s, they get a bit more responsibility. They kind of step back a bit and try to control the game, whereas he's just gone, I'm going to go after it even more. I'm going to go after it even more. Yeah. And that's obviously culminated in the Dally M the other night, but they are two different halves. Like, Nathan has a really good running game, but he is that guy who's moving chess pieces.
He's more of a Cronk-esque style player.
Is. He's got a little bit more dynamic stuff in him. Like, he's a big body, can run, whereas Jerome is on ball every single play. He's going to be there every single play, and that's what makes Melbourne so dangerous. It can happen at any point. Like, they can be trailing for a long time, and those guys can just come up with something really quickly.
What about Jerome? Jerome is always, I think most people always class him as second fiddle to Cleary, and probably still do. I think he's taken a lot more ownership because Cleary's been out this year. Do you think his game's gone to a different level?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like, you always knew him as like this run threat. It was almost like a fullback playing halfback, right? And then all of a sudden this year, and the Dally M is, it shows that he has gone from being, one of those kind of really good halves to like a great half, and he's dominated every single game this year. Even last week, man, to score a hat-trick and dominate us like he did in a prelim final, that's not an easy thing to do. Yeah. And this is going to probably be his biggest test, right, in the grand final. He knows all eyes are on him. Penrith will be sitting there all week going, we know we need to stop Jerome, Harry, and Cam. Yeah. And Ivan's one of the best at it to do it. They've done it for multiple years. And this will be his big test. Like, can he break Penrith down, the best defensive team over the last 5 years?
I want to ask you about a player. A lot of people have talked about him, Tyron Wishart. What's his impact like when he comes on?
Mate, he unassuming. Like, the start of the year, like even last year, he was bumping around different positions, played fullback, he's been outstanding for them this year. Like, at times, he's played better than Cam has at 5'8".
He has.
Through the season, obviously different circumstances, but yeah, if something happens to Paps, Harry, Jerome or Cam, you have no worries at all, right?
Yeah.
Like, he slots straight in there and nothing changes for them. Something happens to Jerome, Nath, Mitch or Dill, there is huge.
There's a big gap.
It's huge. Like, they don't really have anyone that they can bring on there that's going to fill that void. Like, Tyrone Wishart would slot straight in and be the same level that, Munster and.
So you're recommending Kamakamitha just run out a big elbow for Keary and level it out?
It'd be interesting to see. Like, we've had guys carry different injuries through finals, and you can see his one is it's obviously not right, and he's going to play through it no matter what. Like, it's going to have to properly go for him to come off, but that can happen in one tackle.
Yeah,
that can happen in the first tackle of the game. Could happen on the first time he ball plays and lands wrong if he gets tackled. Could happen on a kick pressure straight away. Like, it could honestly happen in the first 5 minutes. It might happen in the last 12 minutes, like it did at Penrith a few months ago. So
I
reckon they'll be holding their breath. That they're praying that nothing happens, because he obviously tweaked it a little bit against Cronulla last week. Yeah,
it definitely didn't look good, and I think it would be something. Like, how much seeing stuff like that, how much videos on and, like, we need to target him?
Well, it's a fine balance, right? Because, like I said before, Melbourne would be sitting there going, we've been the best team all year. We've got a game model that stacks up against everyone. We've beaten Penrith twice with Nathan.
Yeah.
Do you sit there all week and worry about a bloke and create a game plan to go after a guy because you might
have a fuck
you
shoulder.
might get him? We see him with Cooper. I think Melbourne admitted they probably talked about it too much or tried to target him too much, went away from everything that they've done the whole entire year. So
that was good for you.
Like, personally, I don't think they would know in the back of their heads, right? The back row on his side would know Blore, but it's not something I reckon they're going, we need to get him, we need to target him, we might get him injured. Like, they're in a position where they don't need that to happen. They can beat Penrith with him out there at 100%, and they've shown it.
Both teams play to their 100%. Who, in your eyes, is the team?
I've honestly thought about this a few times. Like I said, this year, just going off this season, Melbourne have been the best team. Both teams at their very best, Melbourne, I believe, deserve to win because of the season they've had, but that's not how rugby league works.
No, it doesn't.
I think it's going to there's going to be a couple of big moments.
Yeah.
There'll probably be a couple of calls that go one or the other way, and it's going to all hinge. Honestly, like, you don't want to say a player, but it probably hinges on Hughes and Cleary.
Like,
and who out of them two ends up taking those big moments at certain times. If all things are equal, two packs go together, they don't make errors out of yardage, the ref kind of stays out of it. I honestly believe it's probably out of them two to go who ends up taking those moments at different stages.
So who are you predicting?
I think Mel. Yeah, I think Mel. I sound like an idiot. I'm not writing Penrith off. Like, they could easily do it, but just the way Melbourne have gone about it all year, the way they've gone about the finals, you get that feeling that they deserve kind of to finish it off. But like I said, Penrith can easily just walk out there and she'd be over in 30, 40 minutes.
And there it is. It's funny because I think, like, you're doing the content all throughout the season, everyone talks about who's there. And I feel like Melbourne were a team that, even though they're at the top of the ladder, people didn't even have them in their top three teams to win the comp. With like eight rounds, probably about 8 or 9 rounds before the end of the season. Mid-season, people didn't even have them on top. They weren't even favourites.
Yeah, it's interesting. And, like, even at the start of seasons, you see a lot of people not put them quite up there. And it happens every year because you look at their squad on paper and you go, they don't have the really big names, but he just, like we said about Craig, he just gets them up every single year. And it helps. Like I said, Jerome's in career best form.
Yeah.
Harry's in career best form. Paps is healthy. Even Horwath in the centre's career best form. Katoa's career best form. Blore's come out. Like, they've got 7 or 8 guys who are in career best form, and you need that. And you could make the argument Brisbane kind of had the same thing last year with, 6 or 7 of their guys in career best form.
Do you think the difference was, like, if you look at this Melbourne side compared to that Brisbane side, I think as much as there's a lot of youth in the Melbourne side, there's also a bit more experience aside from Ren.
Yeah, no, a few of them have played in that grand final, Origins, test matches with Hughes. Like there is a lot more experience. Like Brisbane had the Walsh, Ezra, Carrigan, Haas. I don't think any of them have played in the GFC at Renault last year, and it probably showed a little bit at the end for them, but you won't get that from Melbourne. You won't get that from Melbourne. You won't get it from Craig. Like they'll be on top of the ball.
All right, we'll talk about GFs. Let's go back to your first one.
How long ago was that?
What was it like winning the GF? Like, how did that all start there? What was that like?
I think I was 25 games in. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I was really lucky. Got thrust into a great team.
Yeah.
And I was just on riding this wave. Didn't know too much. I had Greg, just pass the ball to Greg and tackle. So
it was kind of like under sevens when you got that big kid and just pass it to Greg.
Pass the ball to Greg and tackle and kick chase and high energy and things like that. So the first one was, I still remember 60th minute mark, like I'd done nothing. And I looked up and was like, it just went like that. Like I was like, what's going on here? I think it was 6-6 or 8-6. And I was going, I haven't done anything. Like, we're going to lose this. And then all of a sudden, George scores and things run away. But I've spoken to Coops about it too. Your first 1 or 2 grand finals, it can overawe you really easily.
Yeah, wow.
It can go so quick. You can build the game up so much during the week, and then it just goes whack and it's over. I was very, very, very fortunate.
Well, we'll skip ahead to, 4 more years and you come to the good club. And then how did that compare? What was that like?
Yeah, a little bit different, obviously a little bit older. I think I was 26.
Yeah.
And the build up to the first one was really unique with Cooper. But there was a sense of, I'd have a lot better appreciation because I'd been through a bit of adversity in the, years after the 2014 one. So I was so appreciative to be there. I knew how hard it was to get back there. And I'd had that experience from the first one where I went, I know this can get away from me real quick. So I enjoyed the week a lot more leading up to it. I didn't think about the game too much, although we had Cooper. There was a lot going on. But I actually enjoyed like how good is this and really focused about what I needed to do on that.
How hard was it to stay focused? Like, no, did you know that he was playing all week?
No one knew. No one knew till the day of.
Yeah.
But it was a weird thing, mate. Like, you could feel in the group that it was just, like, you looked at Jared and that, and it was like, we're all on here. Like, you just knew. And the forwards, no one talks about them much, but in that game, they set the platform. Like, I remember kicking it, and every time we kick it, Billy Slater was just getting swarmed by Jared and Friendy and those boys. So I was like, it felt calm because all these really experienced players who just, you looked over and you went, they're on here, like it's going to be sweet.
How different is that playing behind when your forwards are just rolling forward? Because I know, like, the halves seem to get hammered when you get beat, but usually it's because your forward pack's getting flogged. It's hard. How much easier is it playing off the front forward?
Yeah. The 18 one was a bit like what Penrith did to Parra in 22. Like, you have to, you just stand behind them, kick well, and things just start opening up because the other team's just overawed. And you felt that with Melbourne that year. They made a few errors. They just got overawed by those boys. And then 19 was complete opposite. Yeah. I just remember being on the field going, we are getting dominated here. Like, how are we even in this game? But because you're stuck in there so long and because we knew each other so well and were so close, it was like a few of us go, righto, need to come up with something here. And then obviously Latrell comes up with a flick. But it's complete opposite, like dogfight 19, and like it was a bit of a domination that 18, whereas
it was like really it was a perfect 40 minutes. You laid the platform. All you had to do was hold on.
I don't think we made an error the first half. It was 18 or 20-0 or something. I think they made a few errors. Like it was to play behind that in a grand final. That's what you want. You want it to be perfect on the big day. You want to put it all together on the big day. And Penrith have done it a couple of times now.
Interesting. All right. Well, that was a good wrap. What's who's your man of the match?
Like I said, I think it's got to be one of them two. So I think if Melbourne win, Hughes will take it.
So you reckon it's one of the halves?
I think it's got to be.
Yeah. What was it like winning the Clive Churchill?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, it's cool to just be recognised on that day. Like, we don't play for the individuals, but like as a kid, all you want to do is win a grand final, right? You watch the grand final, you see all those guys that win the Clive Churchills up to it, and then to be standing there going,
how good's that?
Like, how cool is that? Like, as a kid to dream about stuff like winning a grand final and being there on that day, and then for that to happen.
Is that your proudest moment as a footy player?
No, like winning the actual grand finals was, because so much goes into it, and just be able to look at your teammates that you spent so much time with, so much hard work, to be able to look them in the eye and they know that you gave everything and you know they did, and like that's your proudest moment, to be in a team where it all pays off, because I played for 13 years or 12 years and it only paid off 3 times. You know what I mean? Like I know it's
sounds bad, but like, love to say it.
Those 3 times is so special. Like
and you'll remember it forever.
Yeah, that's the proudest moment, to be able to look someone else and go, I know I did absolutely everything I could.
Yeah.
And it paid off.
Out of all of those 3, which was the best Mad Monday?
18 was cool, 14 was good too, because I was so young. I was a bit more crazy. 19 wasn't that great, because I had a Cindy going into the game, so I remember I had surgery straight away, like maybe on the Friday or something. But 18 was really fun.
Well, I was there for that one.
18 was really fun. 18 was cool, because I remember I had a huge day on the Saturday at the races, and then on the Sunday, Mao rang me and said, mate, we need you to come into Australia camp. So that was kind of like a really cool, and obviously Clive Churchill, like it was a special fun week. Yeah, we had Napsky. Rads was really young at the time too. So
I'm tipping that the big Napster would have
He's
got
still going.
He's still going.
He's still going from presentation last night.
Oh, he'd have a Clive Churchill for Mad Monday.
He would. He's got a few.
Yeah.
He's got a few.
All right. Well, thanks for coming in, legend. All the best in France. You must be looking forward to that.
I am. Yeah, the family's looking forward to it. Obviously, we'll head over in December, so it's going to be a fun adventure. I'm keen to like give my family that experience, but then also go and contribute to the Catalans and try help them win a comp.
One last tip from you: who wins Super Bowl?
I reckon San Fran are going to get it done.
Yeah,
I think they've been so close. They've got a few injuries at the moment, but they get everyone back. I think they're gonna win it this year. Beauty. Thanks, Adrian. Thanks, mate. Cheers.
What are you prepared to lose today? Set a deposit limit. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.